In Georgia, if you're charged and convicted of vehicular homicide based upon a DUI, the penalties for that conviction are going to be at a minimum 3 years, and that's supposed to be 3 years imprisonment, although you can potentially get that probated, okay? Up to 15 years in prison. So basically, 3 minimum and 15 is the maximum for a conviction for vehicular homicide first degree based upon a DUI. The negligence or non-negligence of you as the driver when you're convicted of a vehicular homicide based on DUI, it's not going to change what the potential punishment is. It's still going to be 3 years minimum, 15 years maximum. It doesn't change the sentencing range, in other words, if you are more or less negligent, because if you're convicted of a vehicular homicide based on DUI, that's pretty much baked into the crime itself, right? They can establish that you're supposedly driving under the influence, they know they have a death, and they know that you were at least were a proximate cause of that, which are the things they have to prove to find you guilty of that. So it's not going to change the sentencing range that a judge could choose from. However, it will certainly change likely what you may ultimately end up getting. If you are able to show that you are less negligent, if you're less culpable, then it could certainly affect your sentencing range, and you would want to be making those arguments for yourself if that's the boat that you find yourself in. The legal defenses of a vehicular homicide DUI are very limited, okay, because the government only has to prove, basically that someone has died and that you were a cause of that by virtue of the fact that you were allegedly DUI. They don't have to prove that you were the exclusive cause of the death or the accident that caused the death. They only have to prove that you were something called proximately at cause or proximate cause, okay? Which is just a fancy word to say that you were a significant part of what the accident or basically usually these are always accidents, so that you played a significant part in that accident, basically, okay? They don't have to prove you were the exclusive cause, and in fact, there's a recent Georgia Supreme Court case where they excluded the defendant from introducing evidence of the other driver's negligence and said that that was irrelevant for purposes of establishing proximate cause. It's a very limited area. The courts, this is one of the more unfortunate areas. If you get charged with this crime, the courts are very limited. They limit the defense in a large way. Relative negligence is normally admissible, but again, the Georgia Supreme Court case, I think it was 2022 or 2023, said that negligence by the other party is just irrelevant. So your defenses then for a DUI vehicular homicide are, you're going to be arguing that basically you were not a proximate cause, or you can argue something called independent intervening cause, which is where you show that there was some other cause, for example, the other driver, and that was an independent intervening cause unrelated to your original negligence. Complicated stuff. This is why you need to get a lawyer. If you are charged with a vehicular homicide based on DUI and you have a prior DUI conviction, it will significantly influence your potential sentencing. You don't want to be in that situation. Preferably, you would have no prior driving history whatsoever, and certainly not prior DUI history. It'd be the first thing the government looks at when they're trying to formulate what an appropriate sentence is for you, and hopefully that's not your situation, because I considered likely that to be a massive aggravator. The very first thing you need to do if you get charged with vehicular homicide, or you think you may be charged with vehicular homicide, the very first thing you should do is call a local criminal defense attorney that does this type of law, and reach out to them for advice about what steps you need to take first. The very worst thing you could do would be to be providing evidence to the government, consenting to searches of cars, handing over things like phones, answering questions. Call that lawyer, let that lawyer talk to you about your rights and tell you about the things that you do and don't want to do. But the big ones are don't just hand over things and consent to things. But number one, reach out to a local criminal defense lawyer who specializes in this, and they'll walk you through what your next steps need to be.